Yeah. Good evening, everyone. Great to have so many join on this somewhat of a strange time that we're in, as far as a virtual Teams meeting, as far as the Yorkshire Gas. We've just got one or two admin things to sort out. So basically, as far as using this way of networking as we are doing, by all means, keep your cameras on. If you can turn your mics off, and then when we've got Dave Tomkin doing the brief as far as the H21 information through from Northern Gas Networks. Any questions that arise? There is a questions, there's a chat box to use. Could we try and sort of go down that format the best we can? I mean, I think there's quite a few, certainly myself, that's still learning on how to use this way of networking. So, is there any questions that's coming out from that information being provided? You're okay with your cameras, but just keep your mics off if you can. Okay. So, Johnny, if you're okay with me, I'll continue to introduce Dave.
Yeah, by all means.
Okay. So, I'd like to introduce Dave Tomkin, has been our guest speaker, and thank you, Dave, for taking the time for being able to, give us some feedback as far as what the industry is doing regarding the hydrogen networks. But just a small introduction, Dave, if you're okay. I have it been scripted to me, Dave, as far as nearly 20 years experience in the industry. He initially joined the industry as an apprentice emergency service engineer at Transco in 2001. Before fulfilling roles within the Distribution Network Control Centre, DNCC at NGN, as a technical engineer for British Gas and as a technical manager for Gas Safe Register. Dave is a qualified incident investigator and was awarded Agm's first ever engineering technician engineering of the Year award. He's also a fellow of the Agm and sits on the council of Agm. And additionally, he has sat on various panels for numerous industry standards, committees and working groups, and has previously been technical consultant and author to the Gas Safe Register official magazine. Have I captured that?
Yeah, I hate them sort of things. Yeah, but yeah.
Right. Well, I'll politely hand it over to you and John as far as the shared screen and your presentation, David. But yeah, thank you. It's well appreciated.
Right, no problem. I'll just try to set this screen to be shared at the moment. Right. All being well, you should be able to see that come through at the moment. What you may find is I do have a couple of videos in this, just short ones for some of the areas. So if it does start struggling with bandwidth, I know what it's like on Teams at the moment. It might be worth sometimes just people turning cameras off. I know I'll certainly do that as I'm going through the presentation, just to try and keep it moving smoothly, because I know what it's like, certainly my internet up here. So yeah, thanks for the introduction. Thanks for asking us here. It's lovely to be part. I've not spoken to anyone from the Yorkshire Gas Association before, so thank you for having us. Yeah, so as the rather nice introduction gave, my name is David Tomkin. I'm part of the H21 team. I came back to Northern Gas Networks in July this year to join the H21 team. And I'm going to go through just a presentation here about the H21 and the different phases and a few other bits and pieces as well. So here we go. So what we'll cover today, I'm going to cover a few different things. Who we are briefly, if in case anyone's not heard of Northern Gas Networks. The reason we're doing this, the need for change. about H21 itself, about the three main phases of the H21 programme, a little bit about the High Deploy 2 programme, which NGN are involved with, which is the hydrogen blending, and then an overview of what we call our integral site and our hydrogen houses as well, and then questions at the end. If I could, feel free to ask questions, but if we could just keep them to the end, that would be great. So just a very quick overview for anyone, as I say, who hasn't heard of NGN. We are the gas transporter for the northern part of England, where we transport to around 2.7 million homes and businesses across Yorkshire, the North East and Northern Cumbria. We were formed on the 1st of June 2005 from the demerger of National Grid Transco, and our network consists of about 37,000 kilometres, 23,000 miles of pipeline. So we want to start looking at the why all this talk of hydrogen and all the need for change. And I think it's pretty much certain that most people accept that climate change is going to be the most significant technical, economic, social and business challenge that we face in the world today, coronavirus aside. The UK, along with most countries around the world, recognises the challenges of this as well. And back in 2019, the UK committed to reaching net zero emissions by 2050, having already committed to reducing our carbon emissions by 80% of their 1990 levels. And this has been enshrined in legislation under the UK Climate Act 2008. But prior to the Leeds Citygate report, which I believe Dan Sadler spoke to you about in the past, little investigation had been done into the opportunity to decarbonise the actual network at the scale to help with this. So everyone, I think, thought it was a dead asset. So why the gas grid? So I think it's pretty much certain that we recognise that it's got a proven history of secure energy transmission around the country. It's unaffected by weather, and it's a world-class grid as well, which heats 83% of buildings and almost all commercial industrial heat as well. So it's a prime place to deliver the energy we need. The network's been designed to meet the energy demand for weather conditions occurring once every 20 years, i.e. an exceptionally cold day, requiring all appliances on, and it was actually validated back in 2018 with the Beast from the East, and we'll all remember that one. So it proved that the gas network is resilient. So if we can repurpose that to transport a low carbon and then a zero carbon gas, it'll allow us to capitalise on something we've already paid for. The UK consumer has paid for this grid, while ensuring they don't require major disruption, expensive changes to their home versus potentially other sources as well. So it's a long-term solution to climate change, which uses both the gas and electricity networks and presents the customers of tomorrow the same choice that we have now. You as a consumer today choose gas or electric to heat your home, and it's basically an all-round package that hopefully what we're looking for. So quick overview of the H21 timeline. Back in 2016, the Leeds Citygate report confirmed that the conversion of the UK to 100% hydrogen was technically and economically viable. And then following this in 2017, a bid on behalf of all the gas networks, so NGN, Cadent, SGN, Wales and West, was submitted to Ofgem, and it was awarded £9 million funding, with a further 1.3 coming from the other GDNs as the first phase in delivering the critical safety evidence. And as part of this, we're also joined with industry partners from DNVGL and the Health and Safety Executive Science Division. And at the end of 2019, a further 6.8 million of funding was awarded to help develop phase 2 of the safety case. Now, in addition, there is also the £25 million base funded downstream of the meter programme, so everything after the emergency control valve, under what's called the High for Heat programme. So if you think H21 up to the emergency control valve, High for Heat after that. So we're looking to present the safety evidence between natural gas and hydrogen. So as I've mentioned, it's been identified as a key project moving forward, and we've identified some key pieces of work that will help us demonstrate that we can transport hydrogen safely. So we're going to start looking at some of these things. But I'm going to clear up a few terms before we go on further, because I'm going to be repeating them a few times, specifically what's called an NIC and an NIA, as the programme is made up of a mixture of these. Now, the NIC is what are the main phases, if that makes sense. Phase 1, phase 2, phase 3. And that is called a network innovation competition. So it's a yearly pot of money set aside by Ofgem that the gas networks bid for various projects. Whereas an NIA is a set allowance, a network innovation allowance, that each network gets to fund small-scale innovative projects, and it's part of the price control settlement set by Ofgem. The NIAs aren't focused solely on projects with low carbon benefits, but the NIC is. and the NICs are generally used for the larger funds. So I just want to clear some of them up because we do love our TLAs in the gas industry, the good old 3-letter abbreviations, and there's a couple more. So phase one. Phase one of the NIC H21 project was split into 2 main phases, 1A and 1B. Now 1A was the asset collection and background testing on what was the world's first bespoke facility based at the Health and Safety Science Division in Buxton. That set of tests covered a huge range of metallic and polyethylene assets, valves, joints, fittings and pipes from across the UK and from different pressure tiers and different diameters. So as part of the Iron Mains replacement programme, a cross-section of these assets had been removed from the network anyway, and some had been in the ground for up to 100 years. So on the specially built leakage test rig, controlled tests were taken with natural gas and 100% hydrogen, and as part of that evidence that's looking into to see the background leakage on the hydrogen network and comparing the two. Those tests were completed in March and April this year, and phase 1B that ran simultaneously and a little bit after that involved the consequence testing, and that was done at DNV-GL's RAF Spade Adam test site up in the wilds of Cumbria, Northumberland, and that testing on that completed in August this year. This phase measured the risks associated with the background leakage from phase 1A, but with the consequence, so the failure of leakage, mains fractures, third-party damage, and anything from operational repairs. As part of that, it included the probably well-known now hydrogen houses. 3 purpose-built houses were built to very different UK housing stock. One 1920s build, one 1960s, and one to modern building standards. We then simulated hydrogen leaks from a newly installed ring main, as well as a set of allotments we built, so different ground surfaces, and captured any data, including how the hydrogen tracked, dispersed, and compared it to natural gas. It's a really important piece of work to help us understand the consequences of any hydrogen leakage. We also simulated large releases of hydrogen, ignition potential tests, and looked at the explosive limits, all of which has given us a better understanding of the characteristics. We also did explosion severity, as well as some of these and a few initial operational activities, such as purging, flow stopping, and excavation techniques. In addition to the 2 main phases, 1A and B, there's also what's called a quantitative risk assessment behind it and a master test plan. Now, the risk assessment is used to update a very complex piece of computer modelling, risk and modelling, that is used in the gas industry anyway that we have. We have risk models, and this is what we're looking to update with the evidence as it's coming through. So the reports for these 2 tests are due early next year. So obviously, as you can appreciate, a lot of the results are still, the reports are coming in, being finalised, being drawn up with some of the final data. So if there's any questions relating to this, I may not be able to answer them as yet. And when we are ready for them, they'll have to be shared with our project partners first. But rest assured, when they are available, they'll be publicly available, hopefully early next year. One interesting piece of the work also that was related to phase 1 was what's called the social sciences. So we've been working with Leeds Beckett University on this to gauge the public's perception of hydrogen, including any concerns. And it's been, as an engineer myself, it's been a really interesting piece of work differently, and it's different. Most people we found had given very little thought about where the gas or electric actually comes from, or what it was even made of. The results found that safety is not actually a major concern for the public. They assume that if their supply is converted to hydrogen, it will be safe and robustly tested. And that, to be honest, goes to show just how a world-class safety record we actually have if safety is not their #1 priority. They actually appreciated the benefits of safety that it could bring with no carbon monoxide poisoning potential as well. And we found that the public were able to digest quite detailed technical information, but they want to be brought along on the journey. And if anyone's interested in that report, it is available on our website. So phase 2. The phase 2 scheme, as I mentioned, was granted the £6.8 million at the end of 2019 as the next step. It's again another collaborative partnership with the other GDNs, DNV-GL, the Health and Safety Executive, National Grid and Leeds Beckett University. And it builds on phase 1 for the next stage of safety. And this one is built into 4 sub-phases, which I'll go through now, A, B, C, D. So phase 2A is what we call our appraisal of network operations, and we're building on what we call our microgrid. It's going to be built, and building is underway at Spade Adam. Now, it's a very busy slide, that, but I wanted to try and get as much on there as possible to show you. So the phase will review, test and make recommendations to amend our operational and maintenance procedures to work on 100% network. All very well and good, we go putting all this pipe in the ground, put hydrogen through it, but if we can't work on it as a network, well, what's the point? So that's what this is looking at here. So the mini grid, as we're building it there, is going to replicate existing gas networks from large to small diameters and up to 7 bar. It'll also be used to assist in the validation of network analysis, something I'll be looking at, and the equations used in the analysis software when modelling hydrogen networks. So the current procedures have been appraised by the HSE, with a test plan being drawn up as well. And it was announced only this week, on the 30th of November, that National Grid have been awarded their successful bid, and they'll be joining us up there by connecting their future grid, as it's called, to our distribution network. So the aim will be to have a full beach to burner research site on one unique place. And as you can see here, this is the site that we're building. There's the houses, the microgrid, hydrogen reservoir, and it's all going to connect in, and we're starting to put some pipe in the ground. So it's a big site that we're building there. Now, phase 2B is what we call our unoccupied trials, and this is going to be built in Redcar in Cleveland. And we've secured a site in which a section of the network is currently in use. It's in natural gas, but it doesn't supply any end users. This picture here with our lovely hydrogen car, you can see it's a demolished housing estate, but the infrastructure is still there under the ground. Our aim is for that build to start in January next year, with testing due to commence in March and end late next year. And the purpose of this is to establish the confidence in actually repurposing and actually doing a conversion on an actual network. So it's going to be isolated, the location secured while it's all tested in place, and it's going to be again used to demonstrate those operational procedures we've learnt on the microgrid as well. It also allows us to pick up any unknowns, because with the best will in the world you can plan, but until you come across things in the real life, we want to see what happens when we actually do it as well. And one of the benefit is the public awareness. It allows us to demonstrate the potential of this without it being behind closed doors, because a lot of the testing, rightly so, is going on at secure test sites behind closed doors, secret squirrel type of thing. But this has us in the public for people to see what's going on, granted behind a fence, but it is certainly a lot more accessible to see that this is coming. It's not just something they read about in the paper. And we've done community engagement as well as working with the local community. Now, again, as with phase 1, this is all building and continuing to build this quantitative risk assessment. And it's going to build on that and also then join with the high for heat downstream quantitative risk assessment to provide a full overview of the risks prior to commencing any community trials. So before we start even thinking about doing this with actual houses, it's a really important time that we join those two pieces of work together and start looking at the risks at that early stage for a holistic up and downstream position, so to speak. So that's one of the very details. If anyone asks me questions on the quantitative risk assessment, I'm going to defer it because it is mega complicated. The social sciences continues as well with Leeds Beckett as well. But phase 2 is going to take it a bit step further to look at a way of actually communicating with the public. Unfortunately, we heard the term fake news. There is a lot of information out there that may not have the most accurate background, shall we say, behind it. So we don't want any misunderstanding or misinformation that could lead to poor customer choices or any unwarranted concern. So it's being open and 100% honest with people as well. As in a worst case scenario, if you've got widespread misunderstanding and misinformation, it may lead to a wholesale rejection of the conversion, and that option of hydrogen could be lost forever. So it's really important there. And as a network operator, being the main point of contact with the customers in our network, it's our responsibility as the people actually doing the conversion to make sure that people are fully informed to make those choices as well. So we're going to be looking at the language, tone, format of the hydrogen conversion, and produce resources for people such as a glossary of terms, an animation, and it was an interactive element, but we're not allowed to touch anything at the moment. So that's being re-looked at. But basically, again, a beach to meter display that can be used to explain to people what's going on, but underpinned by 3 core principles. It's got to be fully accessible, easy to understand, obviously for people who may not have English as their first language. It's not got to involve any selling. So the resource has to enable people to make an informed choice rather than try to persuade them. And it's got to be candid. We need to be open about what we do know and what we don't know. So that's ongoing at the moment. And then phase 3. Now, this will be the planned live trials. And that will be pending current funding approval, of course. And the aim here is to convert to 100% hydrogen and initially a 50 home trial in mid 2022. Phase B of that will then continue and do roughly another 620 homes by mid 2023. These are benchmark figures that we have. They're subject to change once an area has been finalised that we're looking at, because it's not been fully identified yet. But it will include brand new appliances installed in the trial area, as well as the production and storage of hydrogen in the area as well. So they're the NIC projects as well, but as I say, it's made up of the NIA projects as well, and we have 5 of these that have been identified. Some have started, some haven't, and I'll try and give a brief overview of them at the moment. So we have the 268, which is occupied trials. This is a pre-enabling piece of work to the live trial. So it's not the live trial, but it's pre-enabling works. We want to be in a position where we can hit the ground running once that's approved. We don't want to suddenly be in a position to go, right, where do we start here then? So this is looking at any legislation that may apply, where we're going to site any potential hydrogen, what hydrogen we're going to use, and all the prerequisite donkey work, so to speak, to get the trial going as and ready we're done. And that kicked off in September this year. Our industrial and commercial consumers one, that is looking at and discussing with customers on our network what mitigations they need in order to convert to hydrogen. You've got places like potentially glassworks, glass manufacturers that don't like being turned off, obvious reasons. You've got to think of things like hospitals, care homes, the local fish and chip shop. So it's engaging with those people and manufacturers of appliances. So that started in September, so it's early stages as well. And this one, the hydrogen supply strategy, which I'm currently project managing on this one, I've been given that duty wonderfully, is the initial hydrogen supply strategy. So it's a high level strategy look at to see where we will start in the first few years and year one of conversion. So it's looking at the sample area. How do you start converting? Where do you start? What do you do? So how will it be produced? Where the production centres are going to be located, etc., etc. The hydrogen compatibility of services, that has not yet started, but it's due to soon. But that's going to look at the services that feed from the main to your property as well, to see if they need to be replaced prior to conversion. And then we've got the hydrogen compatibility of components, and that started yesterday. So we've had a kick-off meeting and that's it. But this is basically going to build and expand on those tests we did in phase 1 and advise on any of the gas components currently used in the network that we're going to be either need to be further tested or completely replaced with hydrogen. So more detailed testing on this one. So I've just got a quick video here. Hopefully it works. Hopefully the bandwidth goes with us here. But this is just a very quick video that we produced the other week, just because in those houses at Spade Adam, we've installed some hydrogen boilers courtesy of Worcester, Bosch and Baxi. Hope that came through and it wasn't too jumpy, because I know I've seen some awful ones in some other webinars, so hopefully that's not one, and hopefully this one isn't as well. So that was H21. I'm just going to give a little bit of an overview, then play the video to the High Deploy 2 project. Now this is blending of hydrogen. It's not something I'm directly working on, but I've got colleagues within the business who are working on this, and our project manager Adam Madgett is the NGN lead on this. But it's going to be blending 20% into the existing network safely. It's located outside Gateshead in the northeast, and I'll play the video, and hopefully this one works as well. It's about 2 and a bit minutes as well, so hopefully you don't put you to sleep on this one.
I'm Linda, and I live in the northeast of England in a little village called Holroyd-Doveton. I had a letter, opened the letter and had a quick look, and then looked again and thought, hydrogen? That seems an odd concept. Have I misread that? It just never heard of it, didn't know anything about it, so was quite intrigued to find out a little bit more.
The aim of the HydroPloy project is to demonstrate that a blend of hydrogen up to 20% can be utilised and distributed safely within the gas network. We'll be looking to carry out a public pilot into 670 homes in an area called Holroyd-Doveton. So all them homes will be heating and cooking on a blend of 20% hydrogen. When you burn hydrogen, there's no carbon emissions. So introducing a blend up to 20% will reduce the customers and the gas network's carbon footprint.
We've got a very challenging target in Gateshead to be carbon neutral by 2030. A trial like this will actually play an important part in that. But the great advantage of Gateshead is that it's a very environmentally friendly, very green way of transporting energy.
The real benefit for HydroPloy is that customers don't have to make any changes to their appliances when they're using a blend of hydrogen, natural gas, and we as gas networks don't have to make really many changes as well.
So one of the big things that was reassuring for the customers is that the fact that there'll be no difference at the home, there'll be no difference to how they cook, heat their home, and there'll be no impact outside. So it's very clean and easy for us to turn the hydrogen on, and they won't notice the difference at all.
Of course, we've got this great asset of a wide-ranging gas network, and I think it seemed to many people that maybe that was going to be redundant in a green world. Well, with hydrogen, that's not going to be the case.
I've recently become a grandmother for the first time, so very conscious of how my little grandson, who's not quite 1 yet, is going to grow up and what world he'll have there. So whatever we can do to help reduce the carbon emissions and everything that's happening with the cars and pollution and anything that we can do. And it has actually made me stop and think, what else could I do that may help a little bit?
I've been actually quite surprised at how open customers have been. Yeah, we see it as a bit of a stepping stone to the potential for a 100% hydrogen gas network. So it allows us to build confidence up with public perception, but also our own capabilities to be able to introduce a different gas mix into the networks.
Yep, so hopefully that gives you a bit of an idea about HydroPloy 2. Now, I will mention that HydroPloy 1 wasn't a straight-to-video episode. HydroPloy 1, as it was called, is actually ongoing at the moment at Keele University. The difference being is the Keele network is a private network owned by the university and on their campus. But at the moment, they are blending hydrogen there and they're running it round. This will then be moving it on to be the first into a public network. So the little village of Holroyd-Doveton will be hopefully a world first. Well, certainly UK first anyway. That project partners, as you can see there. So if anyone would like to know more about HydroPloy, please do visit their website. But I will just notice at the bottom of this picture here of Holroyd-Doveton, this little site here, because it will lead us nicely on. It's a little one of our gas sites called Low Thornley. Now, Low Thornley is where we are building a research laboratory. The Low Thornley site is about 15 acres. It has high pressure gas distribution in there. It has everything. And it was an old outreach station, research station to the old British Gas research labs. So it's got a history of this sort of thing. But Integral stands for Integrated Transport, Electricity and Gas Research Laboratory. Bit of a mouthful. But its idea is to be a whole integrated energy systems and demonstration facility for industry, academia, small, medium enterprises and the government to look at new green energy technologies, building strategies, look at transport, electricity, all in one place. And it's working with Northern Power Grid, Newcastle University and others as well. So again, it's really impressive what they're actually looking at building there. All sorts of different houses, including a block of flats, I believe, as well. They're just different building styles and all built to 1910 and the actual original building standards for each era as well. So it's quite good what they're doing up there. Again, if anyone would like to know about that, have a look at their website or get in touch with us. And on that site, there's going to be some more hydrogen demonstration homes, and they're currently in the process of being built and planned at the moment. they're basically the aim being to be a show homes for these, to allow consumers, policymakers, anyone to come and have a look at these houses to see that this isn't some sort of tomorrow's world thing, that it can be done and can be done now. And fundamentally, as an ex-apprentice myself, these can be used as a training facility for the next generation of engineers who we're going to need to help train on new green technology. So it probably just leaves us with a final thought. If the 19th century was dominated by town's gas and the 20th century by natural gas, could the 21st century be dominated by hydrogen? We'll see. So thanks everyone. If anyone has any questions, there's our website, email address, or for those who were on Twitter and things like that, there's our Twitter handle. I think it's called a Twitter handle. I don't know.
Okay. Thank you, David. I don't know if anybody can put the videos on and that and put their hands up, but that was a really good, in-depth discussion and demonstration as far as what we're doing to move towards a new future. So let me put my screen on. Right, Dave, thank you very much.
No problem.
Brilliant. So I think we'd probably need to come on to the next item on tonight's meeting, and I'm not sure, John.
Question from Ian Holiday, Paul.
Are we okay to ask questions?
Yeah, sorry.
Hello, Dave.
Hey.
Ian Holiday. I confess to being retired gas engineer, but retain an interest and a member of the association. That was very, very interesting and fascinating, and it's raised loads of questions in my mind. I'm not going to try and ask them all, but two do come to mind. One is the characteristics of hydrogen versus natural gas, predominantly methane, of course, in terms of its safety from what public perception will be, bearing in mind hydrogen was a key factor in the disasters from the First World War of the cigar-shaped things that flew over the Zeppelins. But the other one is in the social sciences field. When you talk about customer choice, isn't it a bit Hobson's choice, really? Because people aren't going to be able to choose within a network whether they go for this or not, are they?
I think addressing that point first, I think what it's meaning is, as consumers at the moment, if you decided, I'm sick of this gas boiler, I want to go electric heating, it gives the people the same option in the future as it does now. And I think that's the key part, not saying that you have to have it. It's just allowing people that choice that they want. They might say, I don't want either. I want to go for heat pumps, or I want to put a wind turbine. It gives people the choice. That's the key point. And with regards to the safety, that's why we're testing at the moment. Yeah. But public perception, as I say, it was interesting that safety wasn't their number one concern. Cost was.
Thank you.
Yeah, apologies, Ian. I did cut in too soon. Any other questions for David?
Yeah, I've got one. John Doveton. Obviously, there's a significant cost associated with all this work. And I read the other day that SGN have got their H100 money authorised, and National Grid Future Work Project's got their authorised. And how much sort of collusion stroke coordination is going on with all these different projects? Because obviously there's only a finite pot at the end of the day, isn't there?
There is, and there is a lot of collaboration. If I try and move out here, you'll see the logos of all the partners at the bottom. So, for example, H21 is a collaborative project led by NGN, but with all of the networks. So there is cross collaboration between them. Different networks have different projects going on, but we are learning from each other and sharing information as well. It is Ofgem are very keen on the collaborative part of it and sharing information, not you sit in corners and you don't share anything. Because at the end of the day, the networks, if we don't do this, you've got no business. So it makes sense to share so that we can prove that hopefully prove we have a future.
Could I ask a question, please? Tony Jordan, where does the hydrogen come from and how much will it cost, that sort of thing? You perhaps addressed in previous meetings, but I didn't hear it.
Where's the hydrogen coming from for the trials, or where's it coming from generally?
The vast amounts for the to heat the whole.
For future, initially, it's probably going to come from methane reforming and carbon capture. I don't think we can avoid that for the short term until scales ramp up with regards to renewable and green hydrogen. So it will probably be blue hydrogen to start with a mix of obviously renewable in there as well. But I think it's inevitable there's going to have to be some sort of blue hydrogen in there to start with. But yeah, so yes, people will argue there's carbon involved there, but it's a stepping stone long term that we're looking at here.
John Wilkinson, if I could just ask a question. You talked a lot, David, about the trials on pipe work, on appliances and what have you, but obviously Northern Gas Networks, like all the distribution networks, has got a lot of electrical instrumentation equipment on gas sites, and some of that may not be suitable for use with hydrogen. Has that been investigated as to what changes would be necessary?
It's just kicked off yesterday, as I mentioned. It's the gas-facing assets of that, the components parts. That's all those sort of things will be built in. Yeah, we're very much aware of those sort of things, yes, because things, even looking at explosive atmospheres and hazardous areas, all that's DSEA regulations, yeah, it's all in the mix to be being looked at.
And your odorization systems, will they odorize the hydrogen if it is 100% hydrogen in the same way? And in fact, how is the odorization of the methane affected by the introduction of percentages of hydrogen?
For the blending, as the purpose of the blending is that's the beauty of it, is it's business as usual. There's Keel and High Deploy have done extensive research on this, and they're looking. There's no change basically with regards to that small volume of hydrogen in there at the moment. With regards to full hydrogen, the injection systems, the pumps at the offtakes, they're all going to be built into the assets and looked at. But the odorant itself, SGN have done a piece on that, and it's same odorant as we use now for hydrogen.
Thank you.
John Bowers has a question. John?
Yeah, thank you. The government announced a 10-point plan for greening and net zero in recent times. A few aspects of that don't seem to be fully compatible with the work that's going on with H21. So, for instance, the plan said no gas boilers to be fitted into new housing after 2023. So, what's the government's role in all of this, and how does it all fit together?
Well, government play the ultimate key, because without government process, the decision to convert and to do this won't come from the networks, it will come from government. So if government decide to say no, we're going down that route, then that's a government decision. All the networks, what we're doing is looking to provide that evidence to say that this is feasible and it is technologically possible to do it, and this is how we'll do it. The research has been done. So with regards to the boiler aspect, I think that's actually it disappeared from the 10-point plan, that boiler, no more boilers part. It's the BBC reported it's disappeared. But even if it was there, then it may be that hydrogen ready boilers, for example, the Baxi and Worcester Bosch, they're hydrogen ready. So mandating no new natural gas boilers, but hydrogen ready appliances may be the new thing. A bit like a 5G ready phone, I suppose.
Yeah, thanks for that.
I have another question, Dave. In terms of the project that's going on in the northeast end of the hydrogen blending, where will the hydrogen actually be injected into the system, and what's the impact on the rest of the system in terms of how you're going to separate it? Is it going to go into the medium pressure or direct into low pressure, or how are they going to set that up?
On the High Deploy 2, it will be a grid entry unit installed at the Low Thornley site. Again, like I said, I don't directly work on this project, so apologies for that, but it's a grid entry unit, basically, that injects into the network straight there and feeds up to the village. And it's a blending unit.
I see. And that's separate from the rest of the network, is it?
Yes, the network has been isolated, yeah. So it'll be fed purely from the Low Thornley site up, and then it's isolated around. So that blend area is isolated from the rest of the wider network.
Thank you.
Oh, well, it will be anyway when we start.
Sorry, another question. For the people in Windlarton, is that what it was called?
Windlayton, yeah.
Windlayton, sorry. How does it affect their billing from a CV point of view?
From a CV point of view, it's if you think of it, it's still within the WOBI index of it. It's still within the current UK WOBI, and it still gets the CV. It's slightly lower, but it's still within the limits of billing. So it'll be declared. I'm not an expert on the billing aspect of it, I'm going to be honest with you. So with that one, I would refer to the colleagues that I deploy. So,
okay.
But they will have looked at it for obvious reasons. Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Are there any more questions from our guest that's come on online?
Thank you very much.
Okay.
Thanks,
Well,
thanks for that, Dave.
No problem.
yeah, once again, thank you, David.
No problem. Thanks for having us.
But nice to follow up, and I think John does some of a follow up into the new year again after on another event on the Yorkshire Gas calendar for next year, isn't there?
Yes, we've got in February we've got our friend Mr. Sadler doing another presentation to us, but he's now a director at Equinor, and if you remember, we had a taste of the Merseyside cluster, industrial cluster at the High Deploy meeting we had in March. Well, this is about the Humber, and he'll be giving us some details on the Salt End project and the Humber project and the industrial cluster in February. So it's quite interesting.
And obviously, for the guests that's on joined on for this meeting within the Yorkshire Gas Association, it's a very interesting topic that's been followed through from basically to begin with and then moving forward. So obviously there's been a lot of interest on previous meetings and this meeting as well. And I think it's a point to prove that the Yorkshire Gas Association is the group to join, to follow the progress if you want that interface with the people that's dealing with it direct, and subsequent membership, etc., will be more than gratefully accepted. But I just wanted to reiterate how we are as an association, making sure that the members that we have are fully briefed. And I think it's quite an interesting subject to follow through.
If David's still on the call, could I just ask one more question?
Yeah, of course.
Yeah. Interesting. So I've just mentioned of Salt End, which has a large industrial user there. Some people use gas as a process, as a feed.
Feedstock, yeah.
Yeah. So how will they be affected? Well, if you've got a large process plant and somebody tells you you're not going to have methane anymore, what discussions have gone on with those people as to the possible ramifications of that?
That's very much the sort of thing we're talking to them about in our NIA with regards to industrial and commercial customers, for that very reason, because they're the sort of people we want to engage with to get their views. Now, what it may mean is, because hydrogen's used as a feedstock in other chemical processes as well, so we are engaging with those people to get their views on it as well, but who knows what their view may be. That's what outcomes at the end of it. But yes, we are discussing with those very sort of people. We're not just going to suddenly turn off a valve one day, go on your bike.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, some of them might have long-term contracts for the supply of methane.
Exactly, yeah, they could well do. But again, we have to think that we're looking into 2030s possibly before we start thinking about that. So they're the sort of things, if you've got contracts, yeah. But Dan will update you with the H21 project down there, so certainly, yeah.
And how would that affect the interconnector as well? Because obviously gas is transported to and from Europe.
Mm-hmm.
So if we went totally hydrogen, would we have to cut that link? And would that
potentially? Who knows? It's a very good question. Who knows? But it may be that the interconnector is repurposed for hydrogen, because bear in mind, Europe are very interested in this. We've had conversations just recently with a Dutch gas company who are doing hydrogen themselves as well. So it may be that interconnector just becomes a hydrogen interconnector.
Yeah, we can sell gas back to the Russians.
Are we okay as far as moving forward and go to the AGM, guys, or is there any more questions arising? I don't want to cut anything short. If anybody's got any other questions, now is the time to ask, but if not, we can move on with other matters.
Thank you very much, Dave.
I mean, I don't mind hanging about in case anyone thinks of a question later. If that's entirely up to yourselves, I don't mind.
You're more than welcome to sit through our AGM. It won't take too long.
No, but I'll wait about. Saves us having to go look after the children.
Paul, could I just say what an excellent presentation I thought it was, and it perhaps deserves a wider audience, to be honest.
At this moment in time, we are privileged. I've got to say, we're privileged to be able to be at the forward facing of all these conversations. I don't disagree. Obviously, John Holroyd-Doveton and the future president, Dave Gill, which we'll be introducing shortly, needs to take it forward. But like I say, I think it's of benefit to people maintaining, continued support and the membership of our Yorkshire Gas Association, because it's what enables us to keep moving these things forward with the support from yourselves as either companies or individuals. That's what we'd like. We're not keeping it all under wraps. I'm just saying how privileged we feel being a group that's enabled all these conversations to be moved forward. So anything that comes through as far as suggestions and meeting a wider audience, then we're more than happy to take anything like that on board.
And to be fair, Martin, I listened to Dave's presentation earlier when he presented it to the Energy Institute, and hence the reason for asking him to present tonight to the YGA. So there are many forums going on currently where hydrogen is obviously the subject of interest.
Very good, John. Has it gone down to IGEM?
Well, IGEM have got a full agenda, I think, of hydrogen and climate change type subjects anyway, Martin.
Fine. Anyway, well, that was a great presentation. I thoroughly enjoyed it.
Yeah, very good indeed. Yeah, thank you. Carry on then, Paul.
Okay. So people want to put the cameras on and unmute the microphones. Obviously, we've got the AGM process to go through. So can I just hand that over to you? Oh, okay then. Okay, John. So just like to say as well for people that's listening, this has been a recorded Teams meeting, and John has said that if anybody wants to review the recording, then that would be posted on. Would it go on the social media or onto another platform, a media platform, John, to view?
You give me the honest answer, because I'm still learning about Teams. In my day at work, this never existed, so I'll have to take that question in a little bit of abeyance, but I'll sort it out somehow and we'll circulate the presentation and I'll notify everybody accordingly.
Okay. So following on from the presentation, as per the agenda, can we move forward to have a look at the accompanying slides on the agenda? Move forward on the AGM side. So if you just quickly go through where we're at the moment. So obviously we've introduced and again reiterate or welcome all old and new members or future members to the Yorkshire Gas Association. John will be putting the minutes of the previous AGM. There's the President's report for this last year, Treasury report, introduction of the new President, and then the programme 2021. And last but not least, any other business against the date of next meeting. John, I don't know if you've received or noted any of the apologies.
I've not had any apologies for the AGM now.
Okay, all right. So, next slide.
Can everybody see the minutes there?
Yes.
Okay. These have been previously circulated, so hopefully you've had the opportunity to have a look at them.
Do you want to make any specific reference, John? Do you want to go quickly through them?
No, it's their standard format of what we've normally had in the past. It's really entertaining matters arising from the last year's minutes.
If there's no matters arising, I'd require a proposer and seconder for acceptance.
Peter Jellis will propose.
Thank you, Peter.
I'm not second.
Sorry, who seconded it?
Tommy not.
Thank you, Tom.
Thank you.
Okay.
And to move on, John?
Yeah. Now this is where Doveton fails.
You're not doing a bad job yet.
So it's going back to the beginning, so we'll just skip through it.
Next page. Next page, John.
Right then, President's report. For yours, Paul.
All right. In November 2019, I had the honour of being able to take up the President's office from Barney. And at that meeting, we had the one special, which was the Smart Signs, Lighting and Guarding discussion, which was presented by John Hart's on. Really good, interesting piece as far as somewhat of an automated system for trying to give notice for highways excavations and the signs, lighting and guarding that's required around them, and particularly to the people that was of influence as far as being affected by the works. I took up office from Barney and thanked him personally, because Barney had put a lot of effort in the previous year, increased the number of members, and it was a particularly hard act to follow. But you want to next? So in 2020, it was our first real meeting as far as the innovation event at Wakefield. Delighted to see so many people attend. Getting into in excess of 35-40 people is a really good attendance to a number of innovations that different companies have presented, both on the screen and actually had the displays out on the surrounding edges. So again, very, very successful evening. Moving into March 2020, this was just prior to COVID, the COVID lockdown. We just got this shoehorned in. There was some doubt whether if we could put the presentation on, but we went ahead. We had high deploy, where Sakinda Mohammed had joined us from National Grid, and Professor Joe Howe from the Liverpool University. That was taking a lot of interest in moving things forward for carbon capture and some of the networks, how they may operate around in the area. So we had a first sort of taste of the high deploy innovation through Sakinda. And again, it was a joint Agm and Yorkshire Gas meeting, highly attended, and a really good, successful evening. So I think that's sort of moved things forward to today, and the number of people that wanted to see how it's been followed up through H21 as well. Next. So we had a brief pause. COVID kicked in, and everything had to be put on hold. When we came out of COVID, and there was being able to get round and have a look at these different site visits, where we went on a joint visit, Peak Pipeline Systems, Fusion Group and Control Point, all being located within the same area, Chesterfield. And the technical visit was really informative as far as Peak's pipes, what they've done to sort of like capture a market there, introducing their own pipe system, which is all now fully accredited. Fusion Group, the history and the innovations that they've had to go through to have manufacture the fusion fittings that are widely used on the network. And then Control Point, which is their basically they have the eyes and ears as far as the technical standard and monitoring of quality within the network. And again, that was a very informative walk round. So, and then we had a nice meal at a pub afterwards. But those attended, everybody enjoyed it. It was a really good atmosphere about how things have been progressed in the industry. Next slide. So, as the current president, we tried to instigate the inaugural Golf Day, which was in May. We had to postpone it because of COVID. We got the green light as far as the window of opportunity in October, and it was really well attended. We had 13 teams out on the golf course at Hickleton in South Yorkshire. The weather was good for us. The banter was good. The meal was good. And we had a really good effort towards trying to provide some funds for the charity of prostate cancer. We were next. Is there another slide on for the golf there, John?
No, Dave.
Right. I'd personally like to thank Daryl Woodward. He was a massive help. Did a lot of work behind the scenes to make it happen. And to all that's out there, you know, we will be continuing. God bless everything being in a bit of a better position next year to keep this golf day, which is just a different way of being able to network within the Yorkshire Gas Association group. So thank you for all those attending, and congratulations to ICD Energy for winning the inaugural golf day. You know, obviously COVID implications came through this year. The March Ralph Hackett meeting was postponed, now rearranged for 2021. Barney Daniels' Ralph Hackett visit to Singapore was postponed. 2020 dinner dance cancelled. After being initially rearranged for November, we're now into have the arrangements for the 1st of May next year. And we're having to introduce virtual meetings, certainly for this foreseeable future. So it's been an absolute pleasure, challenging at times, but an absolute pleasure of being able to have the presidency chain around my neck for 2020. And I'd like everybody. I'd like to thank everybody for the support that they've given behind me on that for 2020. Next slide. Treasurer's report. So we'll have to go on to Barry. Barry, are you there?
I'm here. Good evening, everybody. Can you hear me?
Good evening.
Evening. Well, because of COVID, etc., there are, as Paul said, postponements, etc., and the accounts have not been audited officially.
Are the accounts on the screen, by the way?
Yeah.
Yes.
They are unaudited because of COVID, so you'll have to trust us all on that one. So basically, starting at the top, the subscriptions were down quite a lot on previous years, and we'd like, it's not good news, and we'd like to urge everybody to renew as soon as possible. I'm sorry the lighting on my face isn't very good. It's to do with the light I need to read everything. I'd also like to think the people like honorary members, life members who do have a free membership, maybe they could contribute something towards the cost of the food, etc., when they attend the meeting. As I said before, this year's dinner dance had to be cancelled. Hopefully it will go ahead in May of next year in Barnsley. And basically, have you got your table booked yet? And we were again, as Paul said, we were successful in finding a recipient for the Ralph Halkett sponsorship trip. Unfortunately, Barney, who was successful, was due to visit Singapore, but that, because of COVID, has had to be delayed, and hopefully that will go ahead next year. Also, the presentation from Javid, who's been to Japan, that's had to be postponed again because of COVID. And the golfing day is raised over £1,000, which will, when we get the final figures, it will be donated to prostate cancer. Now looking at the figures on the accounts, the total expenditure on the main account was £4,135. This is low because of the lack of expenses on the dinner dance, and although the total income was £7,707, that's resulted in an increase on the account of £3,572. But again, this is high because of the £3,000 refund we got on the last dinner dance, and the bookings for next year, bookings for this year that we took in that people haven't reclaimed, and they've let us keep it for next time. But that's there. And the expenditure, the only expenditure of the Ralph Halkett Fund was the monies that we laid out for Barney to go to Singapore, which is, as I said, still in abeyance. Hopefully he gets there, and we can look forward to his presentation when he gets back. So therefore, for this next coming year, we go into a main account of nearly £13,000, which includes that refund, etc. And the Ralph Halkett Fund has still got over £17,000 in it. I think that's basically all I can say.
Any questions arise? And if not, I'd like to have a proposer and a seconder to accept Barry's accounts.
I propose it, Paul.
Dave, thank you.
Yeah, I'll second it. Got that, Paul.
So who was that seconding?
Zenon.
Oh, Zenon, thanks, Zenon.
Thank you. Okay.
What's on the screen now, by the way?
Just the account.
Right, so I do apologise, gentlemen.
Okay.
Go into the PowerPoint. I will get my head around this eventually.
You'll be an expert before long, John.
So I think the last item is we got the honour of introducing Dave as the new president.
Oops. I will get my head around this eventually.
Do we need the PowerPoint for the next item?
Right, is that on the screen now, Dave Gill?
No.
No.
Right, okay. Do apologise, David. We'll get there in the end.
There you go, Paul.
So, as the outgoing president of this year, I'm delighted to introduce Dave Gill. I've known Dave for a long time, who comes as the compliance and assurance manager from the group. So the chain has been passed over, and you know, I hand the reins over to you, Dave, and I just say all the very best to you. It's a great honour to have.
Yes. Thank you very much, Paul. Good evening, everybody. Firstly, I'd like to thank all our members for attending this evening's AGM and presentation from Dave, and also Paul for the successful last 12 months as Chain of Office. I'm honoured for this opportunity to take my position as President and look forward to what will hopefully be a successful year, dependent on what's going on with the COVID. We have got a few things planned in for next year, but obviously all pending what happens with the current situation. A bit of background from myself is I've been in the gas industry since 2001. Started off as an engineer on the tools on gas escapes and replacement work for Transco, and then as my career has progressed, I've gone through to being a gas and water engineer, through to supervisor for Complete Energy Solutions, which is now Energy Assets. Moved to GTC as a project manager, did 6 years as a project manager, and then more recently I've just left my last role, to be fair, three weeks ago, but I was appointed as construction manager. I've taken a predominantly electric company through the full GERS and WERS procedure, obviously obtained accreditation, and then obviously managed all the activities out on site. Now my current role is compliance assurance manager for the Fulcrum Group. Yes, I've got a bit of work on my hands, but hopefully I should be able to turn that around and make a big difference, and things are looking good for the future. As for next year's programme, 2021, we've got a few things planned in already, but obviously there's still a few things that we haven't actually arranged just yet. So in 12th of January on 2021, we've got Jenny Radcliffe, who will be presenting cyber security. Jenny is better known as a people hacker, and she looks at obviously bridging the gap between humans and cyber security. And then on the 11th of February 2021, we've got H2H Saltern, which we mentioned earlier on the meeting. Dan Sandler's going to do us a presentation. Gerard Knott is going to do as a presentation on the Oscar gas visit in April, which I'm looking forward to hearing what he's got to say. And then we haven't got anything actually planned at the moment for the joint venture with Agm in March, but obviously we're monitoring the situation, and obviously trying to find a presentation to happen on that date. And then obviously the Yorkshire Gas Association got postponed. It's been postponed twice now. We've now got that planned in for May 2021. Looking forward to that. We've got a table there. Say there's still places available should you want to join that. Should you want to join on and get a table booked for the dinner and dance, hopefully that date can be set and it's going to go ahead in May. There's what else have we got on? So obviously face-to-face meetings at the moment have postponed, and we're doing everything probably on the same sort of format as what we're on at the moment. And just a quick reminder that obviously subscriptions are due at the moment, so if you haven't already paid them, can you try and get in touch with John and obviously get this settled. And yes, like I say, it's an honour to do this. It's the first time I've done anything like this, so nerves have probably got the better of me this evening, but hopefully as time progresses I'll hopefully, and I'm looking forward to a successful year, hopefully.
Sure it will be, Dave.
Hopefully. Is there any other business? Or do we have any more questions for Dave Tomkins while we've been sat listening to the AGM?
I've got one actually, if you don't mind, Dave. Talked about the, I think someone asked you the question earlier on about the how the hydrogen is going to produce, etc. You mentioned about blue hydrogen. Blue hydrogen is, correct me if I'm wrong, is carbon capture, isn't it? Storage.
It is, yeah.
So, but I assume that the infrastructure for that will be new then, will it?
The carbon capture is something that's done at the minute with regards to, I know it's been done at Teesside. They've got plants up there that actually produce hydrogen. British Oxygen have a hydrogen plant up there. So carbon capture is something that it's not new technology in that sense. Obviously, it may have to be scaled up for the volumes, but carbon capture's been done at the moment. But infrastructure, you may talk about new CO2 pipelines where they're talking about repurposing offshore depleted gas fields. And DNVGL have been doing research on CO2 pipelines. If anyone wants to have a look at the video on their website, it's a really good video of an 8-inch CO2 pipeline that they deliberately fractured to see how the CO2 spreads. It's quite a visually stunning video, to be honest.
Okay, thanks for that. Actually, a couple of questions from Zen and Matthew.
No, just from me, a couple of things, sort of like parish notices, like you say, John. If anybody is interested, next Wednesday, the editor of the Historical Times, Professor Russell Thomas, will do a presentation to North West. All that are able to register for that and join. That'll be another Microsoft Teams thing. Are quite welcome. Be nice for the old folks to see what happened in the past. Some of us need a bit of a memory jog. And also, following on from David's presentation, IGM Northwest have got a presentation on the 3rd of February, which will by Baxi about hydrogen-ready boilers. So another one to watch out for.
Okay, thanks for that. And Matthew, you've got a question?
Yes, good evening. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Good evening. Yes, John, following the meeting in March, it was, I think, the last physical meeting of that sort. I sent you an email. We were discussing a utilisation event. I'm not sure that you received it because I didn't get a response back. But basically, because of my European background in manufacturing and utilisation mainly, I offered to support that initiative on a voluntary basis to help organise such an event if there was sufficient interest. So I just wanted to raise that point. It's obviously not being the most straightforward of years, has it? But can I raise that point?
I'm sure Dave and myself could get together with yourself and put that on the agenda for next year. I'm sure it's something we can look at.
Yes, definitely.
Good answer.
At the end of the day, between me and the president, the incumbent president, we come up with a programme. But anybody who has got any ideas for future presentations, what they would like to hear, etc., just send them out and we'll consider them by all means. Makes it easy for our job.
John, as a past president, can I just wish the president every success this year? It's not going to be easy, but I'm sure he'll do a grand job.
Thank you very much.
Yeah. Right, I think that's it. Dave, you can finish the meeting.
Right, we'll bring the meeting to a close. Like I say, thank you very much all for taking the time out to join this evening, and special thanks to David again for the presentation he's given us all. I hope you all stay safe and stay well, and if you can all join us on the 12th of January for the cybersecurity event, that'd be appreciated.